Right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to take the rear lights out because it's been a long time coming, and what we're going to do is we're going to fit these lights. Now these lights are out of a 2018 vehicle, so clearly I'm not going to go straight in because they're bigger and they're a slightly different shape. So we're going to have to modify the tailgate slightly, and also these panels here. I believe we're going to have to make them slightly shorter because the headlight is actually, the rear light, sorry, is slightly bigger. So it's not going to be straightforward fitment, but if it works, I'm sure it will, I think they're going to look amazing. So what we'll start by doing is taking off the lights, the original lights, have a little fitment of these, see how actually big they are and what needs to be modified on the actual van, and we'll move on from there. So yeah, let's get those lights out first and let the fun begin. Right, so we've got one of the lights off now, and straight away you can see the size difference. There is quite a big difference in size. On top of the size difference, you've also got the shape. So as you can see, this is a much sharper edge here as opposed to a curved edge here. So that's then where the tailgate will need to be modified to accommodate that shape. Also, but this will be later on anyway, the wiring, the plugs are the same, they'll fit no problem, but the wiring will be slightly different because currently I've got two reverse lights. This is only going to have one. The other side is the fog light, and I think the indicating wires are in a different place as well. So the wiring, but that'll be right at the end anyway, and that's not a big problem. It's just a matter of swapping over wires from one connector to another. But other than that, that should be straightforward. But let's get busy taking off the panels at the back, these plastic panels, because these are the ones that are going to have to be modified, shortened to make space for the bigger lights. They are literally held on with 4 plastic, 2 plastic trim bits, clips or whatever you want to call them, and the rest just pulls off. So it's 5 minutes to get the whole thing off. So the light itself just pushes into place because the little lug holders are in exactly the same position, so that's really handy. And as you can see, it all fits in exactly the same way, the same shape here, all fits nicely. But obviously now the issue we have is when you bring the tailgate down, you can then see what's going on. So not bad. You can see at the top there, the gap starts off okay, but then starts to veer over there, and then obviously you've got a big chunk missing because it's a completely different shape. Down the bottom, that's all fine. And obviously where the lights come down here, this is where the plastic's going to have to be modified, shortened to sit just under it. So yeah, that's the main bit, I think. So we're going to have to skim a bit off here, off the tailgate, to get the correct gap. And what we're going to end up doing here, I think, is we're actually going to weld in a plate in here so it's the same shape as the light. So we'll do that first, and then we'll move on to the bottom plastic bit. Right, so before you start cutting anything, there's one thing to take in consideration. You've got this shape here, so you've got dip here as the same on this plastic panel here, and you've also got this curvature here. Now we have to keep that exactly the same, or else if it's not the same, it's just going to look odd. So if what we was going to do originally was just cut it from down here and just bring this whole panel down, but naturally if you bring the whole panel down, that is then not going to line up with that, so it's going to look really stupid. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut just below the curvature here, so just below this where it curves in here, okay, and then we're going to fit the light, fit this just under it, and then because we don't know how much we need to cut off, it's not a lot, we're going to trim this down, bring it down until that fits nicely down here as it is, but then sits right up against the bit we've just cut. I know it might not make sense at the moment, but we'll cut this panel off now, we'll cut this section off, put the light back in, put this section back in, and then see how much of this we have to trim off to get this to butt up to this. Right, so we've chopped the top bit off. I just used a bit of masking tape as a guide, just to get it perfectly straight, and we used a cutting disc on a grinding tool. So yeah, just a very fine cutting disc, cuts through it very easy. We've cut the top of that panel off and just temporarily stuck it there with masking tape, just to see how it's going to sit and fit, just to get a rough idea. So at the moment it all looks good. I've marked off on the top where we're going to have to skim off the bit of the top. But yeah, in regards to this bit, this is okay now. So what we'll do now is we'll plastic weld that to there. So by doing it this way, we still have the lugs at the back that we can actually use the clips, the original clips, to hold it in place. So this will still be held in place in exactly the original way it was fitted originally. Right, so now what we've got here is we've got the one that's been modified. So what we've done, we've chopped the top off and we've plastic welded it to the other bit, to its lower bit. This is obviously the unmodified one, so you can see the size difference. So yeah, this is basically, we've used the top of the original panel, just chopped it off, but we've trimmed down this bit, which is what we're going to have to do here, and then just plastic weld that back to the bit that we take off. So I'll just use this one now as a template for the size, just to make sure I get the size right, same as this side. Cut it off, plastic weld it on, and that'll be that. Obviously when it comes to finishing off, that will need to be filled obviously and painted. Yeah, but that's what it looks like. So we've plastic welded the backs, but what I'm going to do now, just for some added reinforcement, I'm just going to use some fiberglass. That's just to give it some added strength and support the back. So that's what it looks like now when it's all put back in place. Naturally here we will eventually go on to fill this and paint it again, so it's you won't see the join there, but yeah, this is just to dry fit it to see what it looks like. Now we've got the lights sitting nice and properly and as they should be, we need to sort this gap out here, and what we're going to do now is weld in a little plate in here and then fill it and paint it to colour. And what I'm going to use for that, I've got an old wing, and the reason I'm going to use this is because the metal is folded, so the edge will be exactly the same as what it's like on the tailgate. So that's just like folded, it's got a nice fold. It saves me fabricating some metal, so I'll cut this chunk off, you're only going to need a very small piece anyway. It's only a tiny piece, and I'll weld that in and we'll have a look what it looks like. So what I've done now, before I weld this panel, I rubbed down all the old paint and I've coated it in this zinc weld spray. It's like a primer, and it also helps the welding as well, because we're only going to use a very low setting, very small welding spots, so we just want to help that a little bit and also protect it from the elements. So we'll weld that in and see what it looks like. Right, so we've welded in the plate, a couple of little small spot welds, and all that we'll need to do now is just go over it with what I'll use is like a fiberglass over it, I think, rather than filler, because it'll be stronger and obviously bridges the gap properly, but it won't need a lot because it's quite shallow. So we'll do the other side and we'll get cracking on the rest of it. We've got all the filler done now. It's all primered. It's actually ready for painting. Now the thing is, I'm only going to do like a local repair here. Basically because I'm outside, I'm running out of light and I'm very busy at the moment. So as this is my vehicle, we're just going to do a little local repair on it. So we'll keep the paint job localised to that small area till eventually I have time to do the whole tailgate. But for now, that will have to do. So we'll blow this in, take all the paper off and see what it looks like. Right, so we're all done now. All the lights are fully functioning. Paintwork's been done. Done a little local blowing with the paintwork. As I say, I will go on to paint the whole tailgate eventually, because I've got a few dents on there that need attention, but not now. I did virtually this whole job outside in between other jobs I was doing, so I had to rely on using heat lamps and whatnot just to get it done, but it wasn't too bad. I think you'll agree it has definitely modernised the vehicle, makes it look a lot nicer, a lot sleeker. It was something I'd been meaning to do for quite some time. I bought these lights quite a while ago now. I actually got them really cheap, and they just sat there, so yeah, squeeze the job in. I mean, realistically you're looking at about, I don't know, a couple of days work, so it's not too difficult. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope that if you're thinking of doing a job like this, that this will help you. Till next time guys, thank you for watching and take care.